I'm Vincent Steinhauer. I'm the president of Blue Quills First Nations College.
And I'm Janice Makokis, and I'm the Treaty Education Coordinator and an instructor in treaty education here at Blue Quills First Nations College.
So tell us about the Turtle Lodge Treaty.
The Turtle Lodge Treaty was signed on May 7th of this year. We worked on it on May 6th and 7th at a gathering at Saugeen, Manitoba. There was preliminary writing. 2 drafts went into the writing of the treaty, and Janice was one of the lead writers for the treaty, and perhaps I'll ask Janice to talk more about that process.
There was a team of writers, 5 people involved in the development and drafting of the treaty, and we came together in, I think it was February, as a team to discuss some of the themes that would go into the treaty. And the themes were based on our Indigenous ways of knowing and practicing our understanding of what education is, and education in the context of something being lifelong learning and not contextualized or understood within the Western construct of what most people understand education to be. And we went through a series of group writing, drafting the treaty, and it didn't take a lot of time to draft. It was done. I should also say that before we started the drafting of it, we all participated in a sweat ceremony so that we were initiated and engaged in ceremony and the process of using ceremony throughout the entire time of writing the treaty.
Why we put the treaty together was the Institutes of Higher Education, Indigenous Institutes of Higher Education in Canada, a national organization, developed a transfer guide for courses to recognize our courses that we developed, and also the degree and diploma streams that are developed along with those. So when our people transfer anywhere from BC to Ontario, their courses can go with them now, and they can transfer their courses and course credits towards similar degrees throughout the country now, which is good, because in the past when our people transferred and went to our institutes, they lost course credit and they lost time. So it's basically an agreement amongst our institutes to recognize our education, recognize our knowledge, because a lot of the courses that were developed on Anishinaabe, Blackfoot, Cree, Dene, Nakota, Dakota, Lakota, Niska, and Mi'kmaq knowledge systems. And so what they do now is that they recognize all of those knowledge bases, and so when they do course transfer, they can take those courses with them. And also what it does is it protects our knowledges from the mainstream. And I know mainstream institutes, they all have schools of Native study, and they're saying that they're the legitimate teachers and transfers of this knowledge, when really it's not their knowledge to be legitimizing, and it's our knowledge, and we are the legitimate knowledge holders, knowledge keepers, knowledge transmitters. And so when we came together at Saugeen, Manitoba, there were representatives from all of those nations, all of those language groups, and there was the final draft of the treaty was put together there on the 6th. We went over it again on the morning of the 7th, and then we went into ceremony after we agreed on the text of the treaty. And it was difficult because all of the language groups were there, and we all agreed that the English language is an inferior language to be talking about our knowledge bases in. So one of the tasks of all of those language groups, all of the nations, was to bring that document home and have it transferred into their own language base. So when we brought ours back to our college here, it was taken up by the people in Onion Lake, and they translated it into Cree. So we do have that document in Cree.
Why is this document so important?
Well, as I've stated before, those mainstream institutes are taking our knowledges, they're taking our languages, and they're accrediting them. And they're saying that they are the authority on our knowledge, on our languages, when really it's our language. We agreed in that treaty that those languages come from the earth, the sky, the water, and they are gifts from the Creator and the spirit world. And it's up to us to protect those. And so what we did was we developed that treaty, and we all signed that treaty as sovereign peoples. Maybe Janice has something she wants to add to that.
Another reason why it's really important and critical at this time right now is because the Canadian government is initiating a series of legislation, and one of them is the development of the First Nations Education Act. And I think that people see this as a means of exercising and initiating acts of sovereignty amongst them, within themselves as individuals, and amongst ourselves as nations, and making a statement and saying that we are not giving up our right to educate our people. We've never given up our jurisdiction to educate our children and peoples, and we are going to take this matters into our own hands and begin to exercise these acts of sovereignty as a way of expressing what is inherently within us and what has always been within us, because education and our knowledge was given to us by the Creator, and no government can take that away from us.
So it's not only a treaty right, because we've had treaties amongst our nations that predate the treaty with the Crown. And if we never had those treaties, then there wouldn't be the millions of people that were here that were discovered when Columbus came over. We would have had a small number of people like they had in Western Europe. So we knew about peace, we knew about coexistence, and we knew about treaty. And we are sovereign people.
And I think another thing to add to this is that Blue Quills and the writers that came from here were just the people to be asked to do the writing, but the ownership of the contents within this treaty is owned by everybody that chooses to participate and chooses to engage in the process and sign on to the treaty. We don't own the treaty, it's owned by the peoples that want to be a part of it, to protect that which is ours, our knowledge, and our education systems.
Thank you. Do you have any last minute words?
The treaty is going to be presented in Onion Lake at the National Treaty Gathering. It was requested by the host nation that the treaty be read out there, and they'll be having a signing ceremony as well. They see it as a document that will unite all of the treaty areas throughout Canada, throughout Turtle Island, from the pre-Confederation treaties to the numbered treaties, and also to all those areas that don't have treaties with the Canadian state. And this treaty is amongst Indigenous nations, Indigenous peoples.
Thank you.